parents want to do their best. They want to provide what their child needs. And what's difficult, like you said, that feeling a lot of pressure, and it can relieve their minds when they understand that this is what science is showing, because there's so much conflicting information out there.
Hello, everyone. Today, I'm really excited to be speaking with Deborah McNelis, who is doing some amazing work in the field of neuro-nurturing, providing the tools and resources that adults need to ensure that all children receive the experiences necessary to develop fully knowing their worth in being their true self, beginning at birth. And of course, as you know, at the Remmert Method, we teach adults how to use neuroscience to change their own negative childhood memories so that they can achieve the changes that they want to achieve in themselves and their lives. Now, Deborah is working to make sure that new babies and children don't need our services when they grow up. So Deborah McNelis, M.Ed, is an entrepreneurial author, international speaker and educator, and as a brain development specialist and founder of Brain Insights LLC, Deborah has developed the unique brain development series and naturally developing young brains activity packets in English and in Spanish. She has also published Transitions for Infants and Toddlers and Transitions for Preschoolers brain packets in collaboration with Red Leaf Press. So Deborah is a highly sought after presenter and she keynotes for organizations such as the Medical College of Wisconsin, the National Association for the Education of Young Children, and the National Association for Family Childcare, in addition to the International Nanny Association, Kimberly-Clark, and Coles. Her enthusiasm is considered to be contagious, so kindred spirits here. So Deborah, a huge warm welcome, and I am so looking forward to this conversation and what you have to share with our audience.
Well, thank you for that wonderful introduction and the warm welcome. I so appreciate it. I'm honored to be invited to share this with you, and I just find it so fun that I'm working on the prevention focus, and you're working on let's improve what had happened previously in adults' lives. So it's just kind of a wonderful connection that we have in working with that from both directions.
Yeah, and I'm just as excited as you are to find you and your work. So before we go into the details of neuro-nurturing, can you tell us a little bit about what brought you to this work? So what's at the heart of the work you do?
Well, the heart of it all really started when I was a freshman in college. I was trying to decide what I wanted to major in, and did not yet know. And I had an inspired moment where I was watching a children's choir. And as I'm watching those children singing, the thought came to me, all of the adults in those children's lives don't know all they could know to help those children become all they have the potential to become. And it just inspired me, as I said, and it has that thought, that moment has driven my entire career. So when you say the heart of what I am focused on, or the heart of the work, is that I've always just wanted to do what I could to help other adults know all they could know to help those kids, and not only become all they have the potential to become. That was the original thought, but it's more so that I just want the children to be able to just be their true selves and be valued, recognized, accepted, loved, nurtured as that true self that they already are.
Fantastic. And yeah, and as we know, all of that is not only what the children are experiencing, but of course, those children become adults. So then you're contributing not only to those children's experiences, but to to those adults the children become. And that's what's so exciting and powerful, in addition to just making children's lives happier and healthier and more empowering. So that's why this stuff is so exciting.
It is. It's just, it creates this whole new generation.
Right.
If we can have this generation just filled with nurturing experiences and feeling loved, we'll have a whole generation of nurturing and loving adults.
Absolutely. Oh, and this is how to change the world, really,
It is.
for the
It
knock-on
is.
effects. And do you have a specific area of emphasis that you focus on?
Over the years, since I started in this field, it's always been an emphasis on birth through 5. And because those are the years that the brain is developing most rapidly, and that's when plasticity is taking place, where the brain is making connections as rapidly, unbelievably at a rapid pace. And it begins to slow down after that time. So that has always been my emphasis. However, having said that, I am I'm narrowing my focus currently. I'm not ignoring the birth to 5 range, but I am narrowing the focus and emphasizing the first 60 days. The first 60 days of a child's life, because of recent research. Well, I shouldn't say because that has always been an emphasis of mine. When I began learning about the importance of secure attachment, establishing a secure attachment, and what that does for physical and mental health of a child, and contributes to learning and behavior and self-perception. That has been a big emphasis. But recently, fairly recently, research was done in 2018 by Dr. Bruce Perry and others that to reveal the incredible importance that's being indicated through this research of the impact of the first 2 months of a baby's life.
Absolutely.
So now my emphasis is on those first 2 months. And as a result, I'm creating a movement and a recognition of those that support those early months, either the caregivers or the babies themselves, and creating that awareness. And then what needs to be done? What is the nurturing that needs to happen during those months?
Right.
So we're creating a movement called the First 60 Days, and we've created a booklet that gives information on, well, then what needs, as I said, needs to be done in those first 60 days. And it's dispelling and unlearning the myths and misconceptions that are commonly shared within our society.
That is fantastic. And Deborah, I have to say that I know that you sent me a link to a YouTube video where Dr. Bruce Perry is being interviewed by Oprah. And it's just like a 2-minute piece where he emphasizes how crucial those first 2 months are. And that was really interesting. What I want to mention here is that I took a look at the comments there, and there were several comments that were saying, but he didn't say how. What do we do now? And I know there was one who said, I'm a new mother and I've already got such pressure, and now I feel even more. So this is so needed, just based on that tiny slither or snippet of somebody, people responding to this.
Yes, exactly. Parents want to do their best. They want to provide what their child needs. And what's difficult, like you said, that they're feeling a lot of pressure, and it can relieve their minds when they understand that this is what science is showing, because there's so much conflicting information out there, and myths, like I said. So one very, very, very common one, which is the first myth that's dispelled in the First 60 Days booklet, is don't pick that baby up when it's crying, because you will spoil it.
I had that argument with my own mother when my son was born, because that's how she was taught. And, she would go, well, you must let them cry, otherwise you'll spoil them. And I was like, Mom, that doesn't feel right. It doesn't sound right. No, you must let them cry because they'll get spoiled. And of course, now that I know how the brain works, I mean, no, that's not how it works, not how the brain works at all.
Exactly. It's actually the opposite. The brain is
Correct.
going to develop best. You're going to spoil, I don't even like the word, right? But it's going to be the opposite of spoiling. You're going to be doing exactly what that child needs to end up being more self-sufficient, being able to self-regulate ultimately as the brain matures. But the responsiveness, the nurturing responsiveness, and that being consistent actually starts the brain wiring in ways that the child will actually be able to self-regulate and control impulses, and all that we of course want children to be able to do.
Absolutely, because they will have formed those systems in their brain and those automatic coping skills and that. And an analogy I was thinking of as you were talking is, if you grow a tree, you don't want to be going, oh no, don't keep watering the tree. If you'll spoil
Right.
it. So you need to water the
Exactly.
tree until it's big, and then it can, survive on its own. But all things that we grow or raise, we put in all of everything that thing needs, and until it's big enough to survive on its own.
That's
And,
right.
and then they've got that strong foundation and one of the things that I talk about in the work we do is that we need to bring to our lives, so to relationships, to business, to all our interactions with life, we need to bring our own safety and connection and love and all of that inside us. It comes from inside us. We can't get it from out there. So we can't get it from anyone else except for when we're children. So when
Exactly.
we're babies and children, we need to get it from our parents, so that then we have it with us forever, and we can bring it with us. Bring your own, BYO, your own happiness. And so that's why this is so important as well. And of course, what we do is change the negative childhood memories to put that in the adults' new childhood memories. But what you are doing is making sure that it's there from scratch for the new generation that are coming, which is fantastic.
Exactly. So again, that's why this is such a wonderful combination here, because part of the First 60 Days guide also is recognizing the stress that parents are under in this situation too. And maybe they didn't have that nurturing like you just described. Maybe they didn't have it, and that's what you're able to help them with. But this guide also gives a little bit of information about that they need to do self-care for themselves, and also not see one of the myths in the guide is you need to be perfect.
Oh,
Well,
yes.
and so many parents are going to try to put that belief on themselves, and there is no such thing, certainly, of what perfect, and we all have a different perception of what perfect is as
Right.
also, but just relieving themselves of that kind of pressure is also important. So it's a guide for nurturing the parents, but I mean nurturing the baby, of course, but it's also nurturing that parent through these first
Oh,
60 days as well.
because we can't give what we don't have, right? So that's
Right.
such an important piece.
And
And
I
oh, sorry.
I
Go
was
ahead.
just going to say, and I love your bringing up the analogy of nature, Yeah, we're going to nurture that little seedling, and do all we can to protect it and keep and nurture it, just like you said. And when you think about um, animals and
Yes.
how how animals nurture those babies, or you think of a bird and with their newborn babies in the nest, they
Hmm.
don't just stick them in another nest and we're going to be over here and
Yeah.
or kick them out of the nest because we're going to spoil you if you just stay in the nest and we just keep nurturing and bringing food to you. That's
Right.
not how nature works. So
Right. And going back to the tree analogy, the more you nurture and protect that sapling, the stronger the tree becomes.
right.
So
and it
and one of the
and
things
it
I
can
say,
buffer it. The relationships in these early relationships create this buffer for, we're not eliminating all the circumstances that are going to be in a life, but if what research shows is that if there's a buffering relationship that helps a child deal with whatever external experiences are going on, or their internal experiences as well.
yes, absolutely. It's all about building those healthy and empowering coping skills and mechanisms. Right?
It is.
Fantastic. And what do you mean when you say undefinable?
Ah,
What are you referring?
yes, undefinable is a term that I use because um, that's how I see a newborn. That there's this beautiful essence of a new person that really, it's not possible to really describe who that person is and what that baby is. And so I call it undefinable. And I really stress doing all we can to look at a baby in that way without trying to label. I'm I try to avoid putting labels on kids that they need to start living up to, and that's part of what you work on doing, is that unlabeling. And so what's the first thing we do when a baby is born, or even now during pregnancy? What is it? Is it a boy or a girl? We want to put a label on them right from the start. And then we attach a meaning to, oh, it's a girl. Oh, that. And then we have these
Mhm.
perceptions of what that means. And then we start asking, is that baby a good baby? Or is it a fussy baby? And that's one of the myths in the guide, in the booklet as well. So I just like the view of looking at them as undefinable.
Right. Oh, that's fantastic. Yes, I love that. And so, Deborah, what are some of the things that adults in children's lives right now can do to support those children's positive self-image and self-perception?
Well, it begins with what we've been talking about, that responsiveness. So when a baby is expressing a need, responding to them, like it sounds like that's exactly, you followed your intuition and that's what you did. Responding to those expressed needs of the baby, that communicates that they are worthy, that they have worth. They're already beginning to make those connections. It's physical connections that are being made in the brain based on those experiences and how they are being treated. In fact, I just posted on social media this point. And so that consistent nurture and responsiveness is key. And then other aspects are, as I was saying, avoiding labeling the child. So a lot of times parents will just naturally, I use this example, this is with older children, not with babies, but um, a child draws a picture and they come up and they show you their picture. And our natural response is,
What is it?
yeah, asking what it is, or saying, good job, or beautiful picture. We're making some kind of judgment. We're putting some label on it. We're evaluating it. And so what I suggest is what is, and that's very positive, very positive to do for a child. But what is more advantageous is to instead help a child learn to self-evaluate. And you could say something like, oh, you look like you're proud of your picture. And then they can decide, yeah, I'm really proud of my picture. They can feel good about themselves, rather than learning to depend on the opinion and the judgment of other people.
So that's interesting, because that's something that's different to what I would expect. So for, as you were saying, the parent saying to the child, oh, that's a beautiful picture. From the work that we do, we, our experience is that when we're children, we need it to come from the parents. And then we've got it in us, and then it's automatic. So they've got the reference for, I'm good at this, because they've heard it, because they need that coming from outside of them first. And then moving forward, they automatically have that proof. But if they don't have that already, there's a possibility of that interpretation of, you look like you're proud of your picture. There's a possibility of that being interpreted as, you look like you're proud of it, but it's not very good, depending on what references they have. So that's an interesting piece of insight to know from you.
Yeah, that it's interesting. I'm glad you shared your perspective of it. And it's yes, we certainly need that reinforcement from adults, as we talked about, that we can show a lot of encouragement in so many ways. The brain focuses primarily on nonverbal communication. And so there's so many nonverbals that we can give children without putting those labels on. So what I'm trying to avoid in what I was sharing is, we don't want children to have their identity related to the labels themselves, like, oh, you're such a good girl,
Right.
and then I only get attention and love if I fit into what is categorized as being a good girl or a good boy. So that's where I'm going with this. And but like I was saying also, that the nonverbals. So you can do a thumbs up or a high five or a hug or a smile or pat on the back or all those kinds of things without putting a label on it.
Okay, very good, very interesting. Thank you for that. That makes sense. And so is there anything else that you'd like to share before we
It's just that I think we've kind of covered most of the emphasis of this, and that is that nurturing. It's all about nurturing. And you used my term, neuro-nurturing, and I didn't explain where that came from.
Oh, of course.
What I realized when I first started doing this work is that when you use the term brain development, sometimes that comes across as, oh, that might be too sciencey, or it might be people have the connotation, oh, brain development, that's affiliated with meaning knowledge acquisition or intelligence building, and not the development of a whole child. So I thought, well, maybe we just need a new term for talking about this. And so then I trademarked the term neuro-nurturing, because that, as we talked about, that's exactly what the child needs.
Absolutely. And I love that term. I think it's brilliant. So that's fantastic. And so Deborah, thank you so much for spending this time with us today. I so appreciate it. And I've loved our conversation. And I'm sure our audience has gained a lot from it as well. So how can people connect with you if they would like to learn more about your work and the resources you have available and the first 60 days packet and all of that?
They can go to my website, which is braininsightsonline.com.
Fantastic. And we'll put a link to that in the
Oh,
description
wonderful.
of this recording as well.
And there's an opportunity to sign up for the newsletter as well on that site. So if people are interested in that,
Yeah.
that's available.
Fantastic. And you're on social media. I know I follow
Oh,
you on
yes.
Twitter, so I'm sure they can come up. So it's at Brain Insights on
Brain
Twitter,
Insights is on Twitter.
right?
Neuro-Nurturing with Brain Insights is on Facebook. And Instagram is Neuro-Nurturing.
Fantastic. So again, we'll put all of those in the description as well to make those links easy to access. And so to everyone watching or listening, depending on where you're accessing this, if you got something out of this conversation today, please let us know by liking this recording and sharing it with those you feel would benefit from it. And also, if you have any questions, either for me or for Deborah, leave them in the comments section and we'll be very happy to answer them. So have a fantastic rest of your day. Thank you again, Deborah, and see you all next time.
Well, thank you for inviting me, and thanks for the work you're doing. So I'm very curious to hear more about your perspective and the aspect of your work that is focusing on, as you were describing, about reinforcing those positives in children, and that's something that they really need.
Right. And so what I realized as we were talking is that there's a difference, of course, between, we're working in the same arena and with the same kinds of goals, but we're coming at it from different perspectives. And so I'm aware that the work that we do changing negative childhood memories in the adult isn't always completely transferable to actually when you're raising actual children. so it's not always the same. So as we change, when we change negative childhood memories, our aim is to make that new childhood, that new timeline, as perfect as possible. So there are, everything is you were an only child where or one part of that timeline is you were an only child, your parents were fully focused on you, you had everything you needed, you were the center of their world, all of that. And I realized I haven't got my mic in front of me. Hopefully you can still hear me, can't you? So
yes.
And so, having all of that as perfect as possible, which is completely unrealistic in real life, but the unconscious part of the brain can't judge something as
Right.
unrealistic. So what that creates in the adult is a feeling of security and proof that I am valuable, I'm safe, and all of that. But I realize that where you're coming from when you're dealing with actually raising children, that's not necessarily transferable. And so I would love to hear a little bit more about what you were talking about, the labels and things like that.
Well, thanks for that explanation. That's really helpful and wonderful to hear. And I can see how impactful that is through that explanation. So what I was getting at is, yes, with real children, developing real memories and real connections in a child's brain initially, that I was trying to get at an example such as if a child is told, you are the smartest kid ever, you're the smartest kid in your class. What happens then when that child gets a C on a test?
Right.
It doesn't fit. It doesn't align with now and there creates this dissonance and creates that negative chemicals happening and all of that. So, or a child that is told you're so naughty, you're just the naughtiest kid, you are naughty all the time. Well, then you're gonna, once they start believing that, that's going to be reinforced. Those are the behaviors that are going to follow. So the brain, as you talk about, is the brain is going to follow whatever it believes to be true. and it focuses then on whatever it believes to be true. So I do a whole presentation on the way in which the brain focuses attention, and how it changes self-perception and behavior and learning and all of that. So, so if a child has the belief that they are smart, they're going to be looking for evidence to support that belief. If they're told that they're naughty, they're going to be looking for evidence that supports that belief. So that's where I was coming from.
Absolutely, that makes perfect sense. And I thank you for that clarification, because I love that additional clarification you put in there about, if it, because it seems like such a good idea to say to the child, you are the cleverest kid in the world, you're the cleverest child, and that is what we put in new childhood memories. But on a practical level in real life, as you pointed out, because we're all about survival, that becomes something they have to live up to in order to survive, as far as the unconscious part of the brain is concerned. As you say, then if anything goes, and we've worked with people like this who, I'm thinking of one person in particular who did brilliantly in school for a long time, and then something happened and she didn't know why it changed. We did figure it out later, but something happened where she started just failing, just really getting terrible marks. She couldn't study and all of that. And I think she was about 11 years old. So it wasn't a teenage thing. And that became part of part of her, her lack of self-confidence and belief in herself and worthiness, because her worth was in that idea of she's expected now to be clever
Exactly.
and get these marks, and then when she doesn't,
Yeah.
so it's then not being loved for just existing.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
I get that.
Exactly.
That makes
Exactly.
sense.
I have an example of just the opposite of your smart example you were just sharing, where there was an adult I was working with, and she was going to enroll in a program, and the initial step to take was to determine, well, where is she, what's her understanding, or what's her level of reading, writing, math skills, and then we'll take her from where she's at. Well, when she got the results of the assessment, she became unbelievably excited, and she said to me, Deborah, guess what? I'm not as stupid as I thought I was.
Oh, bless her heart.
Her
Oh,
her life changed in that moment. I mean, because her self-perception changed, her life changed dramatically. And that's the kind of work you're doing. So
that's right. Yes. Oh, that's wonderful to hear. Yeah. And so thank you again. I know we tacked this little bit on because we started into this conversation after, and I thought, oh, this should be recorded. So thank you again so much for all of this. This adds so much depth and value and deep dive into so much that we all, like you say, all parents, or most parents certainly, just want to do the best they can. They just don't know
right.
or have the resources and the support. And it is just brilliant what you're doing. I'm so thrilled to
Thank
be
you.
connected with you. So
Thank you.
thank you.
I share that thrill of
Ah,
being connected with you.
thank you so much, Deborah. And so bye-bye, everybody, again.
Bye.